choir hopefully might come up and spread along here, and we'll sing through some of the melodies. You can stick with the simple one or do one of the more complicated ones if you want. But it starts like this. All you need is love. All you need is love, love, love. All you need is love, love, love. All we need is love, love. And this is number 2. So love is love is love. Love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love. Oh, love is love is love is love. Love is love is love. Now you can pick whichever one you want. Love, love. Now it's the 4th one called Ubi Caritas et Amor. Ubi Caritas et Amor. Oh, love. Love is love. Ubi Caritas et Amor. Oh, love, love. Now let's all go to the love, love, love. Love, love, love. All we need is love. A couple more times. Let's harmonize if you can. All we need is love, love, love. All we need is love, love, love. All we need is love.
Good morning. Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill Unitarian Universalist. I'm Bill Rote, a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. Our minister is Reverend Thom Belote. I especially want to welcome any visitors or newcomers to our church and call your attention to the special note for you, welcome guests and newcomers, on the backside of the order of service. I would also like to welcome those of you attending online. Lyrics to hymns and elements of the service may be found on the screen, and a complete order of service, including this week's announcements, is available via the link in the Sunday morning email and on the church website. Our in-person Sunday social is held immediately following the service. Please turn off or silence any cell phones during our service to maintain a worshipful experience. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Now, if you would, please join in singing our opening hymn, and by standing in body or spirit, number 347, Gather the Spirit. our call to worship. Come into this community of faith. Bring your whole self, your feeling, hoping, dreading, dreaming selves. Most of all, bring your deepest values. Come to claim and proclaim those values. Come the strength to stand by your values, come what may. We live in a time when calls for mercy are viewed as offensive, inappropriate. But here we claim and proclaim that mercy does not nearly go far enough. Tolerance is not enough. Acceptance is not enough. Come into this place where we celebrate our diversity, affirmation, wide welcome, and profligate love are what this church is about. And liberation. Liberation from systems of oppression and ideologies that diminish us. Come into this faith community. Come to be reminded of who we are and for that which we stand. Come, let us worship together. If you would please join me in reading the words to the lighting of our chalice. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual, works of love, its profession of faith, divine healing.
Well, I built this house with my own two hands. I built this house with the hands of my brothers. Built this house on a firm foundation, and it won't be shaken by no storm. Oh, the wind and rain, they try to overtake us. The wind and rain, they want to bend and break us, but we're saved by a firm foundation and won't be shaken by no storm. I built this house on a promised land. I built this house through the tears of my mother. Built this house, though our hearts were breaking, and I won't be shaken by no storm. Oh, the floods, they come, their waters rising high, but I won't run. No, I'll be safe and dry within this house. It's on a firm foundation, and I won't be shaken by no storm. Well, I built this house with my own two hands. I built this house with the hands my brothers built this house on a firm foundation, and it won't be shaken by no storm. No, it won't be shaken by no storm. No, it won't be shaken by no storm.
So good to see you all today. It is our tradition in our worship service that we hold a time for sharing the joys and the sorrows of our lives. It's during this time in the service, if you've come with either a significant personal joy or a significant sorrow, you're invited to come forward, place a stone in the bowl, say your name, and briefly in a sentence or two, share your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust. Are there any joys and sorrows this morning?
Well, I have a joy today. My daughter, Claire Hafer, who was raised in this church a few years ago, went to preschool here, and she's visiting me for a week from Oregon. Do you want to say something? Hey, y'all.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm proud to be from this community. It wasn't UU when it started. I remember the pride I felt from the progressiveness of it, that Joe Straley, his foundation of fighting for social justice is something I'm really proud that is part of my heritage.
I'm Kari Andrade, and great joy, our son Matt and his partner Katie had a baby, and we have a new grandchild, Emily Andrade.
Did I do it okay, Tom? Oh, thank you. Better. Hey, y'all. I love that. That was awesome. My name is Heather O'Connor, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. Again, this is my second stint. We had a board retreat yesterday, and I want to tell you how happy I am to be on the board again, to be leading the church and helping lead it, and how just really proud I am of our church and how many buckets it filled for me just to be with the group again. Anyway, I'll stop, but thank you.
A final stone is placed for all those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken. And I did not arrange for Heather to come and share about the board, but I'm glad that she did, because the prayer that I want to lead us in, the prayer that I want to read to us this morning, was actually shared by our brand new board president, Dawn Carter, at yesterday's board retreat. And she found these words to close our time together, and I said, those words are perfect for church, and so she actually gave me the page that she had copied. This is a prayer from Unitarian Universalist minister Douglas Taylor, and I invite you to join with me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Gracious and loving God, from whom all things come and to whom all things return, we gather on the edge of another week, and for some of us on the edge of our strength. We come buoyed by events or weighed down by them, or arrive in some paradoxical mix thereof. We're here in our Sunday assembly of hope and restoration. At times we come weary and worn down, and for some that is how we arrive this day. At other times we come with questions, with a longing, or with something to offer. But for those who come today shattered, broken, lonely, and lost, let us offer our prayer of resilience. Again, this week we test the tender places in our hearts and in our lives to see what healing may occur. Gratitude is often a source of healing, and we give thanks for the landscapes of grace in our lives, for music and for good companions, for the guidance of good principles, and the examples of integrity around us. We give thanks for all that lifts us up and for lessons that lead us on. For the times when we are brought low by anxiety or adversity, show us the hidden wells of love we can tap into. Help us to rise once more, just once more, and once more again will surely be enough. Remind us that we do not strive in vain, that we are all part of a chorus, that resilience is in our bones, and that healing and grace come like soft rain. Be thou an ever-present strength upon our journeys, and teach us that in falling down we do rise again. This we ask in the name of all that is holy. May it be so. Let us take a few moments of silence to join our hearts in prayer. I invite you to connect to those tender places in your heart as we sing our sung meditation, number 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness.
May I be filled with loving kindness. This morning's responsive reading is number 592, The Free Mind, by the minister William Ellery Channing. I will read the first section, and if you can then read the section in italics. I call that mind free, which masters the senses, and which recognizes its own reality and greatness. I call that mind free, which jealously guards its intellectual rights and powers, which does not content itself with a passive or hereditary faith. I call that mind free, which is not passively framed by outward circumstances, and is not the creature of accidental impulse. Which discovers everywhere the radiant signatures of the human spirit, and in them finds help to its own spiritual enlargement. I call that mind free, which protects itself against the usurpations of society, and which does not cower to human opinion. I call that mind free, which resists the bondage of habit, which does not mechanically copy the past, nor live on its old virtues. Which listens for new and higher dimensions of consciousness, and rejoices to pour itself forth in fresh and higher exertions. I call that mind free, which sets no bounds to its love, which wherever they are seen, delights in virtue, and sympathizes with suffering. Which recognizes in all human beings the image of God and the rights of God's children, and offers itself up a willing sacrifice to the cause of humankind. I call that mind free, which has cast off all fear but that of wrongdoing, and which no menace or peril can enthrall.
Freely have we received gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate online, there's a QR code on the back of the order of service, and there's information on the church's website. We will now receive the morning offering.
Before the choir sings, Glenn actually asked me to do a few words about introducing the words that the choir is going to sing. They're words by a Universalist minister named John Murray, and during the service today, we've actually had words in the chalice lighting and in the reading by Parker, by Channing, and by Murray, who are sort of like three giants of Unitarian Universalism. Murray was expelled from England for preaching universalism and was on his way to sort of build a new life in the United States when we think of the first Universalist miracle occurred. His boat hit a sandbar off the shore of New Jersey, and he went ashore and found a chapel that had been built, and the owner of the chapel had said, "I've been waiting for someone to come preach, and look, you've arrived." And Murray said, well, the boat is going to be freed, the tide is going to free the boat from the sandbar, but if it is still here, if the tide has not freed the boat by Sunday, I will preach. And the tide did not lift the boat off the sandbar, and Murray gave what many believe to be the first Universalist sermon in America. And we're going to sing these words of his. In Unitarian Universalism, like many other denominations, people who are preparing for ministry are required to complete a unit of clinical pastoral education. Jen did this. All the ministers who have grown up and grown out of this congregation, Sarah Clark Farnell and Sarah Gush and Carter Smith and Jem McGaw, they all did this. And I did it too when I was 23 years old. Clinical pastoral education, or CPE for short, is usually done in a hospital, and it involves visiting and offering spiritual care to patients and families, and then processing your experiences with a group of peers. It's wild. There's not really any training, per se. They give you a floor of the hospital, tell you to go visit every room, and then come back and talk about how it went. They also have you take overnight shifts. And during those shifts, I was the lone chaplain on call for a 900-bed hospital and level 1 trauma center. Like I said, it was wild and intense. Every minister I know can recall dozens and dozens of CPE stories. They are vivid stories. They never leave you. One night, I was working an overnight shift at the hospital when I got a page to go to the emergency room, stat. I got there and found the doctor who had me paged. A patient had died. The family had arrived and had been told to wait in the private waiting room. We were going to break the news to them. We walked in, and I was about to learn that this doctor had the worst bedside manner of any doctor in the history of medicine. The doctor spoke a total of 8 words to the family. First name, last name is dead. Here is the chaplain. And then abruptly turned and ran out of the room. The story popped into my head like a flashback this week. I recalled this story because in talking to so many of you, you've told me how this week has made you feel like that patient in a waiting room with the doctor coming in to give a devastating diagnosis. I'm sorry to have to tell you that the disease has spread. And let us make no mistake. There is a sickness in our country right now. Racism is a sickness. Xenophobia is a sickness. Christian nationalism is a sickness. Homophobia and transphobia are sicknesses. And these diseases kill. For a time, we may have thought that the symptoms were diminishing. For a time, we may have held out hope for remission. But we've been given the diagnosis this week. The disease has metastasized. It's not surprising news to us. Like the family told to wait in the private room, we knew the news was not going to be good. But now we've seen the scans and seen the x-rays, and we know the sickness. Here's the chaplain. Here's the tragic news. Here's the chaplain. I guess that's my job, right? I suppose that what I want to do this morning in my remarks is to reflect a little bit about how I've tried to navigate hard times in the past, how I'm trying to navigate them right now. I remember 8 years ago, in January of 2017, I sought to make meaning of that time by reading about those who had lived and suffered under and were experts on repressive and authoritarian regimes. My reading list that winter included Hannah Arendt, the political philosopher who studied totalitarianism. My reading list included Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the leading of the Confessing Church in Germany, who resisted the Nazi regime. I read Elie Wiesel and Viktor Frankl. I read Timothy Snyder's On Tyranny. And I also read the writings of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, writing about their resistance to systems of oppression. That was 2017. My goal, my objective, was to learn everything that I could learn about how political repression worked and about how to practice resistance and resilience. This fall, I've taken somewhat of a different tact. This fall, as if preparing for the possibility of a devastating diagnosis, my reading and study went in a different direction. I began to reread many of the classics of liberal religious thought. I read and preached a lot of Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams, liberal Christian theologians like Reinhold Niebuhr and Paul Tillich. I think now, looking back at what I was reading and thinking and preaching this fall and why, what I was trying to do instinctively was to ground myself in the core of my being, to my identity and to my core commitments. Who am I? Whose am I? What are my non-negotiable, enduring values and commitments? To what do I pledge my life? When the foundations shake, when the winds howl, when the doctor comes and gives us the bad news, it is important to know who we are and whose we are, in which enduring values hold claim over us. So what I want to do, if it's all right with you, is provide the briefest of introductions to liberal religion. I do this in the hopes that it might help you to feel grounded in these unsteady times. The word liberal comes from the Latin. The root of the word is the Latin liber. And liber, in its original meaning, its first meaning, is somewhat surprising. Liber refers to it's a biological term. It refers to a specific part of a tree, namely the inner bark. In biology, this is the part of the tree known as the cambium. And the cambium is what allows a tree to grow. It is a very thin layer of cells, small but mighty, which allows a tiny sapling to become a mighty oak. Liber, from which we get the word liberal, is that inner bark of the tree, the part that grows. And interestingly, the second meaning of liber in Latin was the word for book. Spanish libro, French livre. We also find this root in the English word library. So the Latin word for book literally means living, growing wood, which is paradoxical but also true, right? And kind of cool. And then the word liberal from the Latin liber has other meanings over time. It has come to mean free and generous. Free and generous. Liber means free. It's from where we get the word liberty, from where we get the word liberate. So liberal religion is free religion. At the core of that freedom is freedom of thought, what William Ellery Channing called 200 years ago the free mind. In free religion, we have not just the right, but the obligation of passing our lives through the fire of thought, as Emerson put it. Put simply, it means that we have the right to disagree with creeds, to challenge religious authorities, to interpret texts for ourselves, to search openly and freely for truth. Central to the practice of liberal religion is the freedom of the pulpit and the freedom of the pew. The freedom of the pulpit means that you've loaned me this pulpit with the expectation that I will tell you the truth as best I know it. My contract with the church puts it this way: the minister shall enjoy a free pulpit in accordance with the traditions of Unitarian Universalism. The minister is expected to express values, views, and commitment without fear or favor. That's actually the legal document of my employment with the church. There's no higher authority telling me what I can and cannot say, and there's no gang in the church placing limits on what I can talk about. And the corollary to freedom of pulpit is the freedom of the pew, which everyone here enjoys. Freedom of the pew simply means that you don't have to agree with me. You're allowed to question. You're allowed to disagree. You're encouraged to question and disagree. And from this freedom flows all the other freedoms we cherish: intellectual freedom, academic freedom, freedom of expression, bodily autonomy, freedom to love, freedom from want, freedom from fear, political freedom. We know history teaches us that coercion, that corruption, that threats of violence, that secrecy, that propaganda and lies are all the enemies of freedom. Liberal religion means free religion, and it also means generous religion. Part of a liberal mindset is seeing the world as wondrous, exuberant, and lavish. It is delight in the world's diversity and the diversity of human beings. We do not merely tolerate difference, we celebrate different religions and languages and cultures and ethnicities and sexual orientations and genders. The metaphors we use to describe our faith include the quilt, a lot of different patterns stitched together beautifully, a bouquet, a lot of different flowers forming beauty together, a mosaic, many small pieces arranged in beauty, and a spectrum, the many colors of the rainbow. Today in the service, I've turned to those core expressions of liberal religion from John Murray and Theodore Parker and William Ellery Channing to help us think about what grounds us. People who've written about surviving under repressive times have spoken about the importance of defining and claiming yourself. One author actually suggests taking a moment to write down your deepest values, your loftiest commitments, who you are, whose you are, your moral code, and even what you would be unwilling to do because to do that would violate your own sense of humanity. And then to keep what you've written close at hand and never to violate or forsake your highest commitments. I started my remarks this morning with an unforgettable story from hospital chaplaincy. We can identify, I sure do, with that family who's received awful and dreadful news. I can also identify, and maybe others of you can as well, as leaders or as parents, can identify with that chaplain trying to find a good word to say. But what about the doctor? Now, from the way I told that story, we might conclude that the doctor was a jerk, lacking in compassion and empathy and kindness. And that's one interpretation. It might well be true. But it comes to me in thinking of this story another interpretation. After all, this hospital was a county hospital serving the indigent population of the city. The emergency room there saw tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, day after day. And I wonder if this doctor was stressed, if that had taken a toll on him. I wonder if he had suffered moral injury from having to witness so much death and disease. And in that situation, serving a poor population, having to witness so much death and disease which was preventable and unnecessary and senseless. I wonder if this doctor was not a bad person, but had simply grown cold and harsh and detached in a harsh environment. The lesson, if we choose that interpretation, the lesson that we might learn is that in times of stress, we can certainly be tempted to lash out, to grow cold, to do harm. Let us do our best not to do that. Our challenge is also to hold kindness and compassion even in the midst of suffering and anxiety. As you go forth this day, I invite you to answer these questions for yourself. Who are you? Whose are you? Which great and noble and enduring principles hold you and center you and root you in these times? With that faith, with that strength, with that confidence, go forth. And amen. Our closing hymn this morning is another one of those hymns about liberal religion. It's called Faith of the Larger Liberty, and I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and sing out.
If you would, please join in reading the words of extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And before we sing our closing song, Shalom, let's thank everyone who made the service special today. Now, as you're comfortable, if you would either join hands with your neighbor or cross your hands over your heart, let's sing our closing song, Shalom.